gonna put this. I'll put this up on the screen, and then we'll do that. Hold on, let me do that, and let me do. Everybody, get ready. Cover your eyes.
Cover your eyes and your ears.
Cover
Shield
your
your
eyes.
children.
We are seriously chilling today, but let's jump to it. I'm gonna see if I can pull this up here. I can't remember. Did you give me this, or I forgot what we were talking about?
You sent me a link about ADHD and narcissism, and then I sent you some links.
You sent me 20. I sent you one, and you sent me 20. Tell everybody the truth. That's what happened.
I sent you like 3.
Because you're on it.
But I think sometimes in the interim when we're not chatting, then I'll send you too much stuff, and you're like, "Oh, you mean like the other day, maybe like this past week?" Right? I did.
Yeah. I'm not the greatest email watching person that they could possibly be, but what I was gonna say, this is one of, I think, the ones you sent me on how ADHD, adult ADHD, by the way, there is an element that has to do with children. We're not touching that on today's show. How ADHD and narcissism attract each other is coming from unmaskingnarcissism.com. But you had some other stuff. Just go ahead and tell us some of the things. A lot of this information will be in the description. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, one of the ones I sent you was like, how do you know if you have ADHD, or like some of the main signs and symptoms? And I was sharing with you like a few years back, it was really a relief to find out that I could put like a word or a name to it, because I've had all of these issues, every single one of them. And I'm always like, I used to just get down on myself and be negative. But like the first one, it's a joke. It's like, if you buy another organizing system to organize your last 5 organizing systems, you might have ADHD. That's a sign or a symptom. I was laughing because it's like, it's so true. I was telling you, I'd be in the store or something, get all like inspired by a new calendar, a new organizing system, whatever it is. It's like bright and shiny, and you're like, this is the answer to my problem that I've had my whole life. And now I'm going to move forward, and you get all jacked and jazzed up, and then like the next day, you have the same feeling that you had before you got this new organizing system, or whatever it is. It could be anything related, right? And it's like, maybe it wasn't the answer.
So I ask you this then. So when it comes to ADHD, sometimes, based upon a number of the information you sent me, an individual could think they have it, but they actually are not diagnosed, or they don't have it. They're just going through a process in life. So they need an evaluation, I think, is what you told me.
Well, it's like, if you want an evaluation, which I did at the time because I was feeling more pain, more stress, more anxiety. It just got heavier and heavier and heavier. And at some point, it's like, you got to yell, uncle, right? You're like, I've had enough. I'm actually willing and ready, and I want to reach out for some kind of help. And you start that process. And one of those things in the process is like, if you want to try medication, reach out to the psychiatrist. And that's the evaluation I was talking about. Because otherwise, you don't need an evaluation just to talk to a counselor or get other types of ADHD coaching and other types of integrative help, which is totally out there. But on the psychiatry side, which is medication-based, of course, like you need a little basic evaluation. And it's just a series of questions, basically. And I think it's called like the DSM-5, whatever their psychiatry Bible is. And they update it every year, of course, and change things, based on research or whatever they're feeling in the moment, probably. And right, whatever they get together and decide on their panels. And it's like, that's their Bible, and they go to, and the evaluation is a series of questions based on that, which to me, it's not really, accurate. Like I was telling you, one of the questions that they want to make sure is, in your childhood, at some point, like, was it documented by a teacher, your parents, somebody that, you had trouble, or like you were different, or, something to that effect. And it's like, they're not going to go, most of them aren't going to go check up and ask for medical or like educational parental documentation of this. But I've read online, some places they do. In some places they even require like a brain scan or things like that. But I don't know where that is and what they're doing, because I didn't have to do any of that. over here in Florida.
Yeah, is it just a Florida thing? You didn't have to? No, we don't know for sure.
No.
So, but now this particular subject of ADHD was a concern of a number of people that follow our channel and our content. And thank you for being so kind enough when I presented you with talking about this, that you were willing to jump in and do this, because you're giving your personal perspective and experience. But I have you mentioned right here, this section right here is what I want to hone in on.
Look at that fidget spinner.
You saw the fidget. I showed it like 20 times.
I'm looking at it. It looks familiar. Just a close up of it is weird.
It is a part of the. It is a part of the DSM. Yes, that you mentioned earlier.
See,
it says it is a. How's it put? You go ahead and read that for me, please. Out of the kindness of your heart, as I look all over my screen.
What is ADHD with the grandma with the big boombox? That's me. As my son calls me, big bald grandma right now. That's right.
You baller. You need chains. All right, go ahead.
He calls me big bald grandma. ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It is a name for a cluster, of symptoms derived from the DSM, which stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Yes.
Now, when it comes to relationships, have you noticed, if you look at this next sentence here, I think you touched on this too. Okay. You talked about this as well. Go ahead, please, if you read that, and then I'll go ahead and say what I was going to mention.
You're glad I'm a good reader. I like to read.
No, I'm glad I can keep moving things while you read it, because it'd be too much for me trying to do it all.
Right? That would be so annoying. Most characteristic. It says most characteristic.
Are you going to give us a different voice as you do it?
Which accent would you like?
No, you can do whatever you like. Come on, it's a free for all. Whatever you do is all right with me.
Okay. Most characteristics are impulsive behavior, concentration problems, restlessness, and learning difficulties. The symptoms are already present in childhood and often hinder daily social functioning, as you can see.
Okay, right so social daily functioning, was that a challenge for you?
It is right now. It has been the past few years. I never had a problem before. I say I never had a problem. I'm sure I had plenty of problems. I just didn't see them. I wasn't aware of them. I thought I was just, like a person here. But I didn't. I knew something deep down inside was going on. But it was so deep inside. It's like I wasn't going to say it out loud to anyone. I felt like I was different. And that's one of the symptoms and signs, is actually you feel like you're different. And you've always felt that way. You could never remember a time when you didn't feel that way, but you could never put your finger on it, on why exactly. And all my life, I've always had this underlying anxiety, but I never could name it that, because I just thought, well, this is how life is. This is just normal. Everybody seems stressed. Everybody seems anxious. I never even called it that until the last few years. And it's trauma upon trauma, just dealing with more intense and worse situations, people, relationships, dynamics, and then all of a sudden I'm going, whoa, there's so many layers going on. And it even attacked my physical self, my physical body, my, my medical, my health, in addition to mental, emotional, spiritual, all of that. So when it attacked me physically and it got to that point, it was oh yeah, I was definitely willing to name it anxiety and reach out for help and look it up and go, oh, ADHD, what? This is what it's like for adults. I never even thought about it for adults. I always thought about it for children, like most people, because that's where you hear about it.
I think that's what threw me for a loop when it was presented to me over a year or so ago. Hey, Paxton, how about doing a show on ADHD and narcissism? I just never saw the connection, but after researching it, I can understand it, because I did too. I thought of children. I thought of only, it being something that children go through. But you mentioned something the last show on this subject of ADHD, that is different between boys and girls. How so?
Yes, because and this is probably why you always
Or
thought about
men and women, in other words, boys and girls.
men
Go
and
ahead.
women, boys and girls, right? As it starts in childhood and then develops differently in adulthood, of course. Like, well, and the reason why you always heard about it about kids is because boys were the ones who were more overt with it. They were the ones who were more like physical. They had trouble focusing in school, right, or with their schoolwork or sitting still. Where the girls, you know, when I read about this, I was like, oh my God, that's me. Where the girls, they knew they had to sit still. They knew they had to behave. They had to play along. They had to, because they already knew what would happen if they didn't. And it's almost like, I'm not saying girls are smarter or women are smarter than men. It's just, it was almost like when girls are younger, they have an intelligence or like an innate sense about something that boys don't have yet, and boys aren't
True.
concerned
That's
with
true.
yet. And
Yeah,
why
that's
we
true.
always say girls are more mature than boys, they're a few years
Yes.
ahead, right? Because there's some truth to it. Because I look back and I'm like, I knew things subconsciously, and I had an underlying anxiety about behaving and knowing I needed to do certain things, like making good grades and studying. Like, of course, I would get lost in daydream in class. Of course, I hated math. Of course, all of these things that
Oh,
are on the list.
the basic things were kind of there, but you still knew something else was a little different or
Yeah,
off.
I felt like I was different,
Oh,
but I
you
was
felt you
like,
okay.
I got to fit in. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
got to play along in the classroom, at home, wherever you're having to behave and be quiet and listen and pay attention to stuff that maybe not interest you. And thank God sometimes some classes, some teachers would be great or whatever, or something would interest you and you'd be like, I would feel a relief because then I could actually enjoy it and do well and enjoy it instead of feel that pressure. Because when you're not interested in something or you don't understand it, it's super boring, or you feel like pressure to perform,
Yeah.
like that you're gonna fail, then it's so much harder.
Did you find yourself when you entered relationships? We're, by the way, everybody, we're having a random show. This show and this series of shows that we're going to be doing on ADHD it comes from a request that I got over a year or so ago. We are just now putting it on, and Crystal has been so awesome to volunteer to be the one spearheading it with me, even though we do a number of other things together.
You're
But
awesome.
this wait, hold on. I get to play.
No, you are.
Okay. Yeah, that was for you, Crystal. Okay, so when it comes to relationships, when a woman has ADHD, and she may not even know she has it, which is another thing you brought to my attention in doing research, she may think it's a number of other things, and it may be that. But did you find yourself just trying to fit in when it came to relationships too, also, as you did in school?
Look at
No,
me
per se.
shaking my head and like rolling my eyes, and I feel like I've experienced a lot of interesting things in relationships, and I feel like I've also made a lot of
I
interesting
was trying to have a
choices.
straight face when you said that. I was waiting to hear.
Interesting is the word that I'm
Interesting, yes,
picking.
yeah.
And
Okay.
that's always a good word to pick, and people always joke about it. It's
Safe.
true. We all know kind of the little cluster of what do we really mean when we say interesting. It's like, wow, what a pot. Just stir it up in the pot.
And if you want to know what the interesting is, feel free to watch all the other shows where you see her thumbnail, and she will be able to explain that to you. But anyhow, so when it came to relationships, were you this person who quietly sat in knowing that something felt not right inside? Or were you the rambunctious, let me tell you what time of day it is person?
Oh, honey child, I've done it all. I've played it all. I've tried it all. I feel like, I I come from a very my parents wouldn't like me saying this, religious upbringing and household, because they wouldn't like that, because they're like, no, we taught you to have a relationship with Jesus, with God, not a religious. But it's true. When I say religious upbringing, it's like it means strict rules. You're going to church, you're doing, like, you're having to perform right on the religious
Mm-hmm.
scale, and a
So you were
familial
a good church
structure.
girl, is what you're saying? You
We'll just say I was brought up that way. I had to go to church as long as I lived with them. It was like you went to church if you weren't violently vomiting. Like there was no break. Like we're gonna have a family Sunday or like I'm just being for real. It was like you flipping went if you weren't coughing up blood or something real bad. Like it was. Do you know what I mean?
So there is no room for you to find out that you were coping, struggling, dealing with ADHD until around what age then?
Look at you asked me about relationships, and I started talking about religious upbringing.
No. They're all they're all interconnected. So
right, because relationships are with everyone and everything. Everything's a relationship. It's right. We have a relationship with ourselves. So
when did it become clear that this relationship with yourself had an ADHD element in it as a woman?
So I really didn't think about that, or I would have never considered it if not for an ex that ended up being like very abusive relationship, hardest time, actually. I made some really weird choices, probably like the craziest choices of my adult life, like in a relationship with him. But it was a very vulnerable time in my life, but it was something I actually learned from him. And I have chosen, even though I can say negative things, I've chosen to take away the positive and go, wow, look at all the things I learned from that really tough time in my life and tumultuous relationship and the dynamics there and the traumas there that actually I suffered many traumas being with this person. But it's like I learned a lot too. And I choose to take that. And it was something he brought up like randomly one day. He was like, have you ever considered that you have trouble like staying on track or like, do you think you have ADHD? Like, do you not understand what that is? Like, maybe you should try medication. He's the one that just started asking me questions and suggesting maybe I should try medication. Maybe I should, look into XYZ. And that was the first time I tried a medication for it. And that was the first time I even considered, I was like, why are you saying that to me? Like, I know I'm crazy and I'm all over the place. And I know all these things, but why are you saying I have that? And then that's what made me Google it though and look it up. And I'll never forget the night I did that because he was actually asleep because he used to stay up all night, like go, oh, and I used to try to sleep. But that was the one night I stayed up because I was so relieved when I started looking it up and reading it. I was like laughing, I was crying, I was going, oh my God, I can put, a word, a condition, and some symptoms and signs to all these issues that I've always had. And I always down myself for it. And it's like, it was just such a huge relief off my shoulders to feel like I could relate to other people and other women and other people as adults were saying that they felt this way and had these issues. I was like, are you serious? I would have never known that even existed because I didn't know anybody personally in my life. I was like reading about it online and then finding these people through social media or online, writing these articles, doing coaching, whatever it was, because I didn't know them in my life yet. And then before you know it, it was like they started popping up here and there, or I would start talking about it or similar topics in my life, wherever I was. And then people would start to relate, or they would say, you know what, actually, I found out that I might have that too. Or, I was talking to an old friend and she was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you brought this up because I think I'm going to go get an evaluation. That's happened a few times as well. And I'm like,
really?
Great, I'm so glad.
Were somebody learned from you to go get an evaluation?
Right. That's happened. Cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm like, thank God. It's like that's
what,
been my
what has it been like? What has it been like for your family?
For my family.
Okay, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next.
Me finding out that I have
that. I asked the question for.
I know. I'm like, no. Do you mean me finding out that I have that, or?
Yeah, let's go with that one. No, let's go with
life.
That was a loaded question. I shouldn't even. Yeah. So what has it been like for your son?
I know you're like, she real close. She love her son. Let's
pivot.
Well, because you're gonna get totally different answers, of course.
Yeah, of course.
My son, reacts very differently with me, and we have a different relationship and different dynamics there. And I talk to him about everything pretty openly, age appropriate, but openly. I would have been a very different parent and like more strict or closed off, I think, if I had gone in the direction of like my parents or like my family system and all that. But I didn't. I made a choice to go in a different way. So he, just knowing that I talk about that I have that, but he has it. So the funny thing is that I found out that he had it before I ever found out because he was in
Whoa.
kindergarten. He was 5.
Uh-huh.
He was in kindergarten. He was 5 years old when I got this letter from the school and from his teacher, and and then we went to the doctor and did the blah blah blah. So that was before. Yeah, because he's almost 13 right now, and this was a few years back, a little over 3 years ago than when I discovered and got on my journey. So he was 9, almost 10. So when he was 5, so then you go back 5 or 4 more years earlier.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed with it, and I was a very different person then, and I had a very different response and outlook, and it was a whole thing. And honestly, his dad has been really funny about that whole diagnosis and the whole thing because he's always been against medication, and that's always the first thing that a doctor, like a pediatrician or somebody else like that, is going to suggest because that's what they do, right? If you're talking to a counselor or coach or someone else or a holistic doctor, then you're going to get a whole other set of ideas. And his dad was always more comfortable with that stuff, like those treatments. I remember we tried one medication, and it was almost like a cough syrup. It wasn't even like a pill, like what the kids are taking nowadays, like a pill. I don't even remember what it was. This was so long ago. And I remember thinking, let's try one. And then if we don't get a good response, they tell you to keep trying, and we just shut it down and we never tried another one because it didn't work. But that was a long time ago. So they have a lot more options now, and there's just so much more, to offer. It's just getting everybody on board, like him and his dad. And, my son hasn't been too keen on medication, so I don't push it. It's like, that's not the answer. I tell them, it's just a tool in the toolbox, guys. It's not the answer. There's no one answer. It's like it's almost like a math formula, and we're all different, and you have to like find what works for you. This plus this equals this, so you have to try different things. You have to be willing to open up and not be so closed-minded. That's really one of the keys, is to not close yourself off from finding some of the right answers. And for my son, because I respect his opinion and how he feels, it's like he's been wanting to raw dog it. so
he just tackling it as is. He tackles it as is.
And it's okay, and it works for him because we're not pushing him, and he's blessed. He doesn't have parents and a mom that's pushing him into stressful situations and making him do like, oh, you got to have this grade and you got to do this, and like putting extra pressure. I try to take away the pressure because I see that anxiety bubble up in him because of and I always remind his dad, because it's like, I feel like everybody forgets. I go, hey, remember ADHD? Like when the anxiety bubbles up or the emotions get really intense and he feels safe to express it, thank God. And I remind them of that all the time. I'm like, this is good. He's expressing himself because he feels safe to. He's safe emotionally with us, because kids who don't feel safe emotionally, they're not going to show you their intense emotions. They're going to stuff it down, which is what I did.
When you stuff down your emotions, how did that affect your relationships or your choice of individuals to have a relationship with?
I just keep shaking my head and going, oh my God. Like, yeah, when you stuff your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, and you don't deal with it, it really adds layer upon layer upon layer of just cluster, bad word, cluster. Like it does, and it creates disease, which is a dis-ease in the body. If you're at ease, then you're healthy. Mind, body, heart, spirit, soul, all of that, you're healthy, you're at ease. But if you're at a dis-ease, then at some point your body is going to feel it and respond, and it's sending a message, whether it's pain or discomfort of some sort or whatever, like feeling just wonky, like you're disconnected. I felt it all. I deal with it all, and different things help with different facets of it. But what was the question again? What are we talking about? Talking about ADHD. See,
No, I just like listening to you. No, I like listening to you go ahead and explain what you've experienced, because it fits exactly the narrative that was presented to me a year or so ago when somebody said somebody needs to talk about this because I'm going through this. So hopefully, well, I know that person's going to watch this back later, but hopefully they will get some sense of benefit that they're not alone in feeling what they have gone through. When it comes to narcissism and ADHD, you mentioned the ADHD aspect of it. I wanna touch on something else here. I'm gonna move some things
I'm
around
glad you
here.
kept talking. I was about to say,
But tell me
you
some.
are not alone.
You just love singing. Hey, by the way, there are some people that is there somebody you can give a shout out to? I think you sent me some things. I haven't looked at them as of yet. Any recommendations that adult ADHD individuals need to maybe go check out? Websites, YouTube pages, whatever it may be. You can give them a shout out while I'm kind of moving some things around here and going to put something else up on the screen.
Totally. I'm going to name a few, and then maybe we can name a few later, but a couple of them, there's a YouTube channel called How to ADHD, and I forgot the lady's name, this young, beautiful woman. She's so sweet. She's funny. She's enthusiastic. She's educated. She's smart. She's experienced, and she looks like she's just super young, but she's super like smart and experienced. I forgot her name, but it's called How to ADHD. Check her out on YouTube. The video link I sent to you and I had watched last was called How to Explain ADHD.
I'll put it in the description later. But thank you. What else? What else you got for me there?
She's cool. And then a lot of people will recognize this name, Andrew Huberman. So he talks about a lot of different topics, from like mental health to like personal growth and self-improvement, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, all this kind of talk that's been more popular and more people have been more open and learning more about it. But he really does talk about not just ADHD in some of his content and videos, but how to focus better. And he brings it back to a general sense so that everybody can relate to it. It's like, this is not just for ADHD people. This is for personal growth. It's like how to focus better. How can all of us train ourselves to focus better and use these tools and tricks while he pairs it together with the neuroscience like portion and like research and, throwing out stats that are really interesting while you're learning some new tips and tricks. So definitely check out Andrew Huberman on YouTube, and he's on all the social media and other places online. And then one more I was going to mention, Gabor Mate, Mate, Mategabor, Gabor.
Yes.
So he's on there, and he's on some different channels. The one that I saw last, I don't even think it was his channel, but like if you just look him up, you'll find all sorts of stuff. He talks a lot about trauma, and he did a documentary specifically on trauma that I still have yet to watch. And I said I was going to watch it, and I haven't. And I think I've shared it on my social media like the other year when it was coming out, and I was like really pumping it up, and I'm like, I haven't even seen it yet. What is wrong with me? But
we should excuse me, but we should review that documentary for the next show. We should, because I know a few people will appreciate that. Okay, go ahead, my friend. Go ahead. You were saying?
He usually talks about trauma and just mental health and conditions and experiences and stuff like that in general. But he does get on there on YouTube and talk about ADHD specifically, and just kind of like, what are the issues and like, how does this come out of trauma? Like, how does trauma and ADHD relate, and why are they related? Just like a lot of other mental health conditions. So he's just really smart, just such an intelligent man, and he has his own experiences that he sits there and he shares. talking about his family or somebody that, went through a Holocaust and this and that, and then just sharing different types of traumas and people who've gone through different things and the stats there, but then just relating them to ADHD and how can you basically just move forward and make your life better and move forward now, like, stuff like that.
You have done well.
It's super cool.
You have done a lot of research, better than me. And I knew I could count on you to bring this information out for our viewers, our subscribers, and our members. I want to now kind of move into something that we've talked about numerous times: toxic relationships, narcissism, how those two are related or can kind of cross over into an ADHD life. I'm going to put something up on the screen, and here is the opinion hour. I'm going to call it the opinion hour. That's funny.
They're like making noise.
The noise is fine. It kind of goes...
it goes with the cadence of what we're saying.
I don't know. I'm trying to put something up, and I lost for words. I got it. Wait, hold on a second. I got something here. That's really good. I think I don't want to do it twice. Okay, now here we go. This is the article: ADHD and toxic relationships. It looks like Zuva. That's the name. Zuva 7. That's not probably correct, but hey, 2022. ADHD and toxic relationships. Man, have you ever felt like that? That picture right there? Have you ever felt like that?
I said that should be a picture of me right there, but I'm just joking. Heck, girl,
okay,
she's too pretty for that.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes. Okay, so the table of contents. Go ahead and read that for me while I cough.
Oh, the table of contents? What is it? You mean the question? Oh, what is a toxic relationship? The link between ADHD and toxic relationships. Why are people with ADHD more susceptible to abuse? Because super cool.
Super. Okay, I was saving the super, but you brought it up. I'm not going to do it. Go ahead. Just keep going. I'll bring it.
Super bad. Super duper. Signs of a toxic relationship. Coping with a toxic relationship.
Okay, so those are the ones. Hey, you want to start with number one? Let's go to number one. Number one, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. If you feel that some of this information can be helpful or applies to you or someone you love, feel free to share this article with them. And of course, you're more than welcome to tell them to take a look at our overview video that we're doing right now on this information for our viewers and subscribers and members. Okay, so what does it say there? While building and maintaining relationships can be difficult for anybody, I like what it says there. It's similar to what you mentioned. Those with ADHD can encounter some unique challenges.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love how they worded that. Yeah. It's just real sweet. Well, unique challenges. Very nice. Kind of like the word interesting.
It says they may be seen as poor listeners due to being forgetful and distracted.
Yeah, I'm laughing.
By the way, everybody, she's getting this raw. She didn't. I surprised her with this. She had no idea I was going to bring this article up. But you go ahead and jump in and enlighten people that don't know. And if you're in a relationship with someone and they may be having some of these traits, characteristics, or symptoms, show some patience and love, and they may need some assistance. People with ADHD can display high novelty. I just went blank all of a sudden.
That's me right here. Novelty seeking. It's like, oh, are you still there?
You say that's me. Be there for a second. You lose everybody. Are we back together?
Yeah,
we're all in
back.
here somewhere. Yeah, okay.
We're back in black.
High novelty, right? Novelty.
I thought you were saying somebody's
butchering
name.
words.
I thought you were saying hi, novel. I was like, hello. Where's the comment?
Tearing up words, man. Talking about improv. Seeking tendencies. So novelty.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you mean when you said that's you?
I say that's me because it's basically like you need more stimulation. You're either bored, you need more stimulation, you're not interested in something in your life, whether it's people, places, things, your job, whatever. It's like here's an example of a novelty in case anyone is like, what exactly does that mean? And you have to look it up. Like a novelty in the grocery store is, the Magnum dark chocolate ice cream bars with the chocolate chip. It's like, this is a novelty dessert item. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because
Gotcha. Yeah.
they're selling it. They're like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not something you have every day. I know that's a silly example. But it is what it is. So novelty seeking, it's like something different. It's like you want something different, right? You
Hmm.
want either whether it's the best, like a luxury item almost, or just something different, something other than the norm because you're tired of the norm, you're bored with the norm, you are not the norm.
Hmm.
So you want a novelty item, kind
So
of
the
like
the
yourself.
person with
Like
the
you're a
person with
novelty
ADHD is
person.
not the norm. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
So you
it's almost
seek what's
like
not the norm.
yeah, because you're not the norm. So it's like you are a novelty person seeking a novelty item, behavior,
Hmm.
experience, maybe going to a different concert out of town with like some totally different band and group that's coming through. It's like
Hmm.
that's a novelty. Where like everyone else is like, why are you like into that? Anyways, different
Okay.
examples.
Well, okay. Now you've explained that, but notice the next sentence. Then the next sentence is which can sometimes lead them into toxic relationships. When compared, you're already laughing. I haven't finished yet. I haven't even finished yet. You're already laughing. So, so which can sometimes lead them into toxic relationships when compared to the rest of the population.
Which is weird. But
Your thoughts?
when I think about it, it sounds weird. And if I had read that a while back, I would have been like, what? But I feel like I've lived it now. So I know. I'm like,
Wow.
it's because you are putting yourself, you're basically you're doing different things that other people don't do. Like you're living your life. It's like you're trailblazing. You're a trailblazer. You're doing your thing. You're trying these things that are different than and the other people are doing normal stuff, and so it makes you stand out and you're attracting attention and you don't even know it, you're attracting attention. It's
Oh, when
basically so then
you said normal stuff, would that
yeah,
be considered boring from the ADHD individual's perspective?
yeah, and just too systematic, too disciplined, too all of those things, like too left brain,
Too structured.
too structured.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it.
With some
Understood.
flashes, some pizzazz, some jazz
Yes.
hands, fingers,
Got it. Okay. All right. So then what is a toxic relationship is a part of this particular article from Very Well Mind. Now, again, if there's anybody who is in a relationship with someone who is coping with ADHD, there may be a large amount of patience, would you say, that they would want to have with someone like that and not jump to conclusions?
Yeah, I would say patience, understanding, openness, not being closed minded, not thinking that you're a know it all and like you have the Bible and the Holy Grail and like, but it's like, I've been through that so many times where people are trying to tell me what I think and feel or what kind of person I am. And that's when it gets real toxic. And it's like, dude, like, you have no idea. You think you can read my mind? You think you know me? Like, why are you telling me that I'm this type of person or that just, or they take something from your past where you made a mistake or even though you may have learned something from it and you're taking it as a positive and you're like, this is not me. I am not my past. I am not my mistakes. I am not, like these behaviors or whatever. And somebody tries to make you that person just from like one incident, for
So
example.
when it comes to toxic and you're looking at situations in which you started relationships with individuals who were not connected to you.
Yeah, and like you think they are because you have certain experiences with them, whether if it's romantic and you're in a sexual romantic relationship and then you feel these love chemicals, so you think there's love involved. And they're nice to you sometimes, so you think they love you and they keep telling you they love you, or in your family, your friends, and people say they love you or they care, or they're just around and they're there for like your birthday or whatever it is. It's like, and so you assume and you believe they care for you because you're taking it at face value because that's the kind of person that you are, right? And it's like you're treating everybody in your life because this is the kind of person you are. And then later you find out when the toxic starts spilling in, starts gassing you up, realize what gaslighting is, you realize what all these things are, and you start feeling worse and worse. And you're like, why do I feel worse and worse? And you keep thinking it's you until one day you wake up and you're like, it's not just me.
It took you a while to figure out that it wasn't just you.
It did. It took me a long time. And I will share one of the first times as an adult, I realized, this is way before the ADHD stuff, that when I'm by myself, I'm okay. It's when my son's father just stepped out because he was up in here. Like, I was married. We got married very young, and we had our son. And it's like, before you know it, I was ready to separate. I was ready. It was like a few years later. I think I was 28 when I told him we needed to separate, and I didn't have the strength to follow through on the divorce right away or anything like that. It took another 2 years. I was 30 when it was like a legal divorce that went through. But I remember that was the first time when we separated, and I finally got my own place. It was the very first time I had my name, and I rented a townhouse. And it was like I got to go in there, clean slate, start off, and it was like the most amazing breath of fresh air. It's like I could finally keep my place the way I wanted. You know, it's like I could clean up and I would stay clean if I cleaned. It was amazing. Or, you know, just whatever, just feeling like I could breathe and I had space for myself and my thoughts and my feelings. And I feel like that's what really started my healing journey many years ago, was that. And just being by myself all those times, whether my son was with me, he was with me there most of the time. But when I was by myself as well, it was like I realized I was fine. And I knew, I'm like, I'm a great mom. Like, I'm amazing. It was like, I knew that. It's not like I'm patting myself on the back. It's just something that I needed to realize and tell myself, because I was so used to being put down by other people, whether directly or indirectly, and then just internalizing it for, you know, it is indirect a lot of the time, which gets a little tricky. Very gray areas where someone makes a joke and then they're like, I'm just joking. And it's like, guess what? All jokes have a little bit of truth to them. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a joke. Just like when a stand-up comedian gets up. That's why some jokes are so funny. It's because they were true and relatable. That's why people are laughing their butts off. It's because they relate to it, because it's true. You know, so when your family is mocking you or making a joke about you or teasing you, you know, belittling you, and then going, I'm just joking, or like, where's your sense of humor? It's like, oh yeah, like, how do you want to see how it feels? But it's like, I was never the type of person to make somebody else feel like that or do that to them.
Did you find yourself starting to believe the things that were said to you?
Of course.
Especially in a relationship. Especially in a relationship, did you start to truly believe those things in regards to you being a mom and a number of other things? Because on the screen, it says while no relationship is perfect, toxic relationships often leave people feeling unsupported, controlled, disrespected, and consistently misunderstood. Did you start to believe things that were said to you?
Well, of course. And it's very subconscious. I use that word a lot because I've learned a lot about it. I used to take everything at face value. This is the truth. If I feel this way or I'm having this thought, I'm like, it must be true. And now, obviously, going through my journey, I know better, because just because you have the thought or you feel that way or someone's treating you a certain way, it doesn't mean any of it's true. You know, it's just negative thoughts, negative self-talk, negative treatment, behaviors, abuse, toxicity that I was used to absorbing. I remember just growing up, like, so many times, just waking up first thing in the morning, just feeling like this anxiety or like this feeling of dread, or like something's just not right and something's eating away at me. And it's like, I could never put my finger on it. I just thought, well, this is life. And I would get up and make myself do something to make myself feel better, or just go focus on school or my sport. Whatever it was, right? And just go get your mind off of it would be my best way of coping with it. But yeah, like, of course, many times I gave people airtime, listening, trying to make things right in the relationship, trying to go back and forth, just, defending myself. I wasted so much time defending myself, or, it was like for the principle. Many times I'd be like, no, that's not what happened. That's not what I said. Or like, let's go through this. I always seem to be okay after a certain point with just kind of going through it and facing it when something would go wrong or somebody would say something. It was like I wasn't afraid to deal with this stuff when it came up in a conversation, at least. But if there was nonverbal communication and cues or subconscious like energies being thrown back and forth, that was the time when I would end up absorbing that or internalizing that and then taking it and trying to figure it out later, like what just happened, or like what's this weird energy and feeling going on, and kind of get lost in my mind with it, or try to figure, deal with it on my own in different ways. Go take a walk and be outside and see if it could just like my subconscious could figure it out, you know? But if something came up directly, it was like, I wanted to just hash it out until it got figured out. And it's like, it never got figured out, because when you toxic relationships, it never gets figured out, right?
I tried to hold in my laugh. You are amazing. You are just amazing. You're a pit bull.
Oh.
You wanted to tear into it, didn't you?
I am.
Did you? I know you are. I know you are. But you are in a different place now.
Yeah.
To the point that you feel comfortable not just discussing it, but you've done a number of you've taken a great deal of time and a number of days to do research in regards to ADHD and a number of things. And we've got plenty of content that we're going to share with individuals on this particular subject that can be helpful to a specific part of our viewership, is why we're doing this. So if it applies to you, kudos and enjoy it and take what you can from it and share it with others. If it doesn't apply with you, kudos to you as well. Point someone in our direction if it does apply to them. But when it comes to toxic relationships, I'm going to get back to this article, and then I'm going to bring up a couple of more things here. It says, as a result, any time spent with a partner because of being misunderstood, consistently misunderstood, a significant other can leave the person feeling perpetually drained and unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Does that describe the life you had before you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, it's just that I didn't realize it, because I would go do something that would make me feel happy eventually, or like I would go I would discover things that would fill me up, whether it was like trying that acting class. I know I've talked about that some, and exploring my creative, my artistic side, and finally filling myself and showing myself some time, love, attention, all of that. It's like I did those things along my journey, but that feeling that I mentioned, just waking up every day with like that anxiety, that dread, that feeling of unhappiness, it's like, why would I feel that way right away first thing in the morning? I could never figure that out. It was just like always there. And then so many nights, even to now, it's like I love going to sleep, or it's like you just want to sleep sometimes to not feel any of that or deal with any of it, right? You just want to like, let me go to La La Land and go to sleep. I'm just going to love it. I just love it. Love sleep.
Does it help you a lot to get that rest? You know how I am about that. I bombarded you for over a year.
Oh my gosh.
Take it from an old man. Go take your nap. I
know. It's
you're like, did you take your nap today?
I tell you what, it's amazing, because I look back all those years, all that time where I would be like, in my mind, I would never say this out loud, but like, naps are for losers. Like, I would never.
No, I think you told me that. I think actually you did tell me.
Oh my God, I would never say that, because like now I'm just like, do whatever you need to do, Crystal. Like, it doesn't matter. Like do whatever, because I understand what I've done to myself, and like how I've stuck my neck out and just give, and then other people take. I understand fully now. So I do whatever I need to do for myself, And I know what it feels like, honestly, to not be able to move, to not be well. I know what it feels like to be paralyzed where you literally can't move. Like it's happened to me more than once. Just things I've experienced along this physical health journey, medical stuff that I've dealt with. It's like it had to get to that point, of course, because I'm so intense. I'm a little intense. It's like I push
Okay.
myself, push.
Okay. You're a little intense.
A little
If
bit.
you're that intense, here we go. Now that you said that, you have now segue us to this. Since you say you're intense, then intensely tell me what you think about this. The link between ADHD and toxic relationships. While there is a range of ADHD symptoms, which, before we go any further, anything off the top of your head when it comes to ADHD symptoms that you want to highlight to everybody right now?
Oh, yeah. Like, besides the organizing and thinking like this next thing is going to be the answer. Hey, dude. This cute little doggy. Procrastinating is a big one. And everybody says they can relate to that. But, like, just procrastinating when it just doesn't even make sense. And I learned it's all rooted in emotional issues. Like, procrastinating has nothing to do with like what you think it has to do with. It's all like it's basically like your brain and your body are doing this thing to like protect you because it's almost like an emotional or like a trauma thing, and you procrastinate, and it's really weird. But it's related to trauma, and it's like your brain, your body are trying to protect you, so you procrastinate. But you can overcome it if you do some tricks and stuff like that, and learn more about yourself and like what to do and what you need to get around it, because it's really just all rooted in fear. People procrastinate because there's fear there, or there's a trauma there that hasn't been dealt with and figured out somehow, right? So that's a little deeper one. That's sign or symptom that a lot of people can relate to. But just mind wandering and like just overall organizational challenges, driving issues. Remember I brought that up the other day?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Now, okay, what do you mean by that when you say driving issues?
Speeding tickets, accidents, other types of legal problems, not necessarily just always driving, but I've had a lot of driving legal stuff. I'll just say that. I just went through a time where I was speeding a lot, but I was like going to work and it was all in my mind very justifiable. It was not for no good reason or whatever. And I would pay my speeding tickets. But eventually, if you get too many of them and you already do your school option and everything, then they start taking away points from your license. And then before you know it, it's a snowball just rolling. And
it's a big time problem, right? It can become that. The ADHD symptoms, the ones commonly impacting relationships and emotional dysregulation, inattentiveness, impulsivity, forgetfulness, and disorganization. The article goes on to highlight, doesn't mean that everybody's going to have these symptoms. These are the ones that can impact a person's ability to communicate effectively, regulate emotions, and seem present in the relationship.
Or at work.
Or at work. We should.
Other
Well, we're not. I was going to say we should talk about that part right now, but no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So
it basically means you're not interested in something, or something's not stimulating enough for you, right?
All right, let's talk about it.
That's the negative side, because
you're not interested in something.
Because we know there's a positive side, which brings up superpowers.
Man, you did it.
There's a super side.
Saving it for last. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Right. I'll just throw that out there.
Now, okay, yes. So you're saying there's a superpower that ADHDers may have.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so why are people with ADHD? We're just gonna moving right along. Why are people with ADHD more susceptible to abuse, though? People with ADHD. Okay, go ahead. You want to answer that one? Go ahead before touch on the article. Go ahead.
There's all this information and all this research, but really it's like you are a sensitive, caring, understanding, loving individual thinking that other people are the same, and they're not. Period.
Big surprise for you, huh? When that happened?
I think It is. It's shocking. It's surprising every single time. But when you come to the end of the road, you're like, oh my God, why? Well, like, I didn't realize all of these people were that in my life. I thought it was just these few folks. And it's like, oh, there's a whole thing. There's a whole string. There's a whole community of people.
There's a cabal that's out to get me.
Right. It's like a cult. Where are they meeting? I don't know where they hold their cult meeting.
Oh my goodness. You just
They're like, hit up Crystal. She's super sweet and understanding. Here's her name, number. Here's a picture. Yep. Oh yeah, she'll listen to you. She'll listen to your problems.
I got something for that. Let's see if I do it right here. Take us to your leader. Take us, Crystal. Take us to your leader.
Funny.
We want to take all of you back to our planet. All right.
Man.
Okay. All right. Enough of that.
That is so creepy and so appropriate.
Okay. So here we go. Additionally, relationships in which one person has ADHD tend to have an intense buildup due to people with ADHD having an affinity for those who are expressive, emotionally intense, and spontaneous. That kind of describes our shows.
Yeah, don't we have a lot of those qualities? This is where it gets confusing. It's like, what's going on?
Funny.
There's an overlap between ADHD and narcissism because there's a lot of similar qualities and like overlapping things, like they mentioned right there: spontaneous, impulsive,
emotionally intense.
Yeah, but think about it. If you're emotionally intense, it holds somebody with ADHD's focus and attention, and like it gives us something to focus and feed into because we're that way. So it's like we think it's a give and take, when the other side, toxic, it's just taking because it's actually feeding them because you're giving them the emotions and the time and the attention and the care. And so you're feeding them and you think it's a give and take, that you're feeding each other, but it's not. And it just keeps taking from you, but it's a slow burn. It's a slow, gradual thing. So it's not super obvious.
A slow death, a slow emotional. Okay, look at the next. Okay, then let me read the paragraph then instead of saying something crazy. While boring relationships can be difficult for anyone, the ADHD brain consistently craves stimulation and dopamine. People with ADHD can find themselves innately drawn to relationships with quick, intense beginnings.
Yeah, even though
somebody I haven't seen you make that face. I haven't seen you make that face ever, in like ever. Okay, really? What's running through your brain? Come on, share.
I'm just being so real and quirky myself with you and all of you right now. Just letting it out, just being myself.
Yeah.
Intense beginnings, basically like a fairy tale or like a story, right? Where it's intense. It's like you hear it. And that's what people watch movies and shows and read books for. And it's like we are attracted to that. But then when you get smart enough to realize what's going on, like I did, I still was doing it, even though I knew what was going on at some point. And I'm like, and it was kind of like, I was like, you know what? I want to see what happens. Like, I kind of know that this is not right. And this is not like, I see what's going on. I've already seen, and I know now. I know better, but I kept doing it and going and feeding into it. And almost like I'm a researcher. I was kind of like, what's going to happen? And like, is it this or that? It was almost like I was trying to figure out, is it this or this? And if
you're like a social scientist all of a sudden, trying to figure things out.
Yeah, but I still cared too. About it wasn't like I was using that person. It was like I still cared and I still loved, and I was like, I was still giving all that. And you stay in it because you're still getting something out of it too, because you're lonely, or because you want some affection. You want those things. It's really a need as a human.
A normal need that a human has.
Yeah, it's a normal need. And if you're not finding it, like in the most healthy way, you'll take any scrap of it, even if it's super toxic. until you're really done. Until you're really done. And you're like, actually, I don't care if I'm ever with anyone else ever again. And that's the point where I got to. Which is very
I
intense.
didn't even think you were going to say it in the show, but okay. And
Very
that's kind of where we are today, boys and girls. Oh, wait. So the next paragraph kind of, well, it says this. Even though initial intensity in dating isn't necessarily a bad thing, abusive relationships where gaslighting and love bombing take place also often begin the same way. And this is why pursuing relationships that cause hyperfixations and deep feelings of infatuation can result in problems down the line. It's kind of what you just described.
Yeah, there's a fine line there. And Dr. Romani, I know we've talked about her. She's on YouTube. She talks about all of these mental health topics, especially narcissism and all that and the traumas from it. But, you know, it's like I just watched one of her videos too the other day, or listened to it, where she's talking about the love bombing and what love bombing is or isn't, like the initial like intense phases, and like how to spot the signs or the differences. And like that paragraph right there kind of made me think about it, because it's like, just because something's intense at the beginning doesn't necessarily have to mean it's unhealthy or toxic or it's a narcissistic individual. It's just, here's some signs and symptoms. Like if you talk every day, for example, to this person after you meet and you just start falling for each other, you end up talking every day. Is that love bombing, or is that bad in and of itself? No. But are you feeling pressure? Is this person, getting irritated or weird or like overly negatively emotional if they can't get a hold of you, or like if you don't answer the phone, or like if this, those types of things? It was like, these are examples of where it's going to go toxic, or this might be a narcissistic person. Just because things are intense at the beginning doesn't necessarily mean it's a toxic relationship. Or, sometimes if you find the one, like the love of your life, or you connect to someone, it could end up just being a really amazing lifelong friend. If you really connect to someone fast, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just, how do you like put the brakes on it, and like how do you communicate? Are you open to talking about it, and like talking about how can we keep this healthy? Just because we connected so fast or so well, so intensely from the beginning, like, or just however you could talk about it, or put some boundaries in place to kind of keep it healthy to a certain point until there's a commitment, or there's a different understanding, or there's some space and whatever it is, right? If somebody's not willing to talk about boundaries and put them in place and be okay with them, then obviously that's a sign of a toxic
it's not a good thing. Not a good thing. Right. Okay, so let's turn this into an even larger opinion-based show with some articles. I want your opinion on this then that I'm about to read to you. It says, however, this is under the subheading Signs of a Toxic Relationship. This has to do with the theme of our show, a series of shows, ADHD, what is it? And ADHD in regards to narcissism and toxic relationships, a request from a few of our viewers from over a year or so ago. Let me go down here a little bit here. It says, however, what makes a toxic relationship distinct is that these issues are persistent and occur long term. For that reason, it is crucial to be aware of what behaviors the relationship is displaying and the frequency with which they occur. And you've kind of touched on, just because it goes fast, it doesn't mean, would you say, as Dr. Romney had mentioned, it doesn't mean that it's toxic, but you need to be aware. Here are some toxic behaviors and traits to be aware of: jealousy, negativity, insecurity, selfishness, dishonesty, hostility, lack of support, lack of consistency, toxic communication, such as contempt, criticism, and sarcasm. Kind of leans into that whole joke thing you were saying.
Yeah.
Controlling behavior and distrust. It also mentions 3 more. Abusive. This is also inclusive of emotionally abusive behaviors, such as gaslighting, love bombing, breadcrumbing. Again, some of the things that you talked about a little bit earlier. disrespectful. And of course, it mentions the last one being financial abuse or, again, dishonesty.
Yeah.
A number of things listed here that can be very helpful to all of us when we're interacting with someone to know whether the relationship, we're not just talking romantic, we're talking just a relationship in general, is actually toxic. Any thoughts on any of these?
Yeah, it's like, this is a great list. And from what I've experienced and learned, it's like, the things I've been guilty of, because none of us are perfect, right?
Correct.
Not
That's true.
one. It's like the times when I've lied or been dishonest, the times when I've felt insecure or it's like the ones that maybe I've dealt with over the years. I'm so thankful I've been able to connect and put it together to why I would do certain things.
Got it.
And it's like, it's all connected to trauma for me, or like someone else might realize, oh my God, like this is connected to, so that's why, I've had issues with this or that. So just because somebody, might feel insecure, they might have some weird, communication or something. It doesn't always mean that like, oh, well, it's from this list. Like
You're
they
right.
have a lack of consistency. So like X them off the list.
They're not perfect. They're on the list.
Yeah,
I'm done with them.
People going through a checklist, like I gotta have all these things. It's gotta be perfect. Like that doesn't exist. Like, so just slow your roll. So I'm just kind of drawing.
We're not perfect. That's what you said earlier too, right? We're not perfect.
Nobody is. Exactly.
I'm put the list to me. You're gonna put it to somebody else. We got to be careful who we're putting a list to.
But some of these, and some behaviors and emotions and things that come out are just super obvious. And if you are a good person, if you have a good, like, it's just not gonna happen. Like being like just straight up abusive, or just the hostility one, like the contempt. These ones are like, if you care about people, you don't do that. Sorry, you just don't. You don't.
No, you don't.
Unless you're just lost in a storm of like, you need to go like get some treatment and like some serious help. If you can't like control yourself in the way you treat other people, like you need some help. If you cannot do that. Because I've had a lot of issues with choices I've made, behaviors, habits, addictions. I've had lots of issues, but never like abusing other people or like holding people in contempt, even when I know they've wronged me. It's like, you just have to get away from them, and you need to protect yourself and get healthy eventually if you can't figure it out and, make it right in a relationship or being connected to them somehow. You just need to protect yourself and get away. But eventually, if you're able to come to terms and grips and go, wow, I've had a problem with lying and here's why in the past, or I've had a problem with feeling insecure and I've been working on it and doing therapy, and I'm so glad I'm feeling more confident and feeling better about myself.
Good
but
for you.
I've had issues with that. So like, sometimes I might feel this way, but I won't let it get this far. If you can help me, like kind of, I'll be honest about it. If you can help me not take it over the line and like feel this way, basically. Like if you're feeling insecure or then your partner is not going to try to make you feel jealous or insecure, right? If they do that on purpose, sometimes it's super obvious when people do that.
Yes.
They're wanting a reaction from their partner.
Yeah.
They're wanting to feel valid and attracted and wanted and all those things. Like, oh, you're jealous. Oh, good. Like inside it's like they want that reaction, or they want to make you feel bad from it. Or maybe it's just a passionate jealousy that they wanted to feel. But in other words, they're putting something out there on a hook, on a fishing hook, and they're just, the bait's there, and it's like they're just fishing and they're baiting, and that's, they want that reaction so they can get something from it. And that's wrong.
Way wrong. Totally wrong. Not cool beans, right? Not cool beans.
Not cool beans.
That's right.
And
We only do cool beans.
All of it. All of the list and all of these things. Yes.
Yeah. When it comes to coping with a toxic relationship, the paragraph says this: when it comes to coping with a toxic relationship, there is no single approach that works universally. Period. There's no one answer that fits all situations. But this is because relationships are dynamic and unique to those within the partnership. That said, there are various general ways people can protect themselves and cope within them. By the way, if you're first time here or you've never experienced what we're doing here right now, we have technically over 60% of the people that watch our channel, even when we were on Instagram, they've let me know they listen to the show more than watch it while they're working out, while they're working in the yard, washing dishes, doing laundry. So that's why we do the shows in the radio podcast format that we do. So I hope that doesn't throw too much of a loop for some of you or those that are passing through. But we appreciate all the support from everyone. Question. Ask yourself if the relationship is fixable, remembering that it's okay to leave. Some people find themselves in very violent situations.
Yeah.
And still find it challenging to move on. But they need to be careful. And there are national hotlines that are available to them. You should feel free to reach out to any local authorities so that you can remain safe. But coping with a toxic relationship is not just you applying step 1, 2, and 3 and everything fits like everybody else's relationship. It's different for each person.
Yeah. It should be, because it should be all different, right?
Loaded question.
Should be.
Because it's different, we have to be assertive with your boundaries and needs. Could you do me the honor?
Yeah. While open and honest communication seems easy in theory, it does. But it can sometimes feel challenging, particularly for those who weren't allowed to assert themselves growing up. However, for a relationship to work, both parties need to feel like they're heard, secure, and protected.
Your thoughts?
Of course. Just because somebody tells you, hey, you are heard, you are secure, you're protected, I love you. And then there's something nonverbal going on, you're sensing, whether it's in your face or not, or, you know, they say one thing, they do another. It's like, you're going to know when you're safe and you're heard and you're like, you're going to know it. And things are still not perfect. Like we were saying, none of us are perfect, but you're going to know it because you're going to start receiving that give and take that you think you've always been doing in relationships and you never have. And it's like, all of a sudden you're going to start receiving it. And you're going to be like, holy moly, this is what mind blown. Like, the heavens have opened apart. Like, finally, a whole new world.
Oh man, didn't see that coming. Did not see that coming.
Place I never knew. Like, it's like that, right? That's what all this.
I was gonna let you.
Like,
I wanted to see more. Go ahead.
But when I'm okay, I can't. I'm not a singer, so I don't want to keep going because I'm gonna hit a bad note.
Oh man. I was gonna put a little hat out on the ground and see if somebody throw coin in there.
It's crystal clear. I had to say that. Okay.
Okay. So ADHD individuals, ADHDers. It's a new term I just learned. I didn't even know that existed until I started doing research. Okay, so how do you describe your boundaries then? You hard to have them. You never had them. You're still learning how to put them up. How does an individual with ADHD deal with boundaries with a toxic person or a narcissist? Yeah, I was just gonna say,
when they've never been respected and safe and secure and all that. Like once I realized and learned all those things, in one of the most like, it was overtly abusive relationships I had. It was like I would put up a boundary and be like, okay, I've learned all these things and here it is. And, you do it a few times and you realize, okay, this is really bad. They don't care, or they're testing me or whatever. And you get to a point where you're like, and then they make excuses, their trauma, they're sorry, this happened to them. So like, I'm finally going to open up and be honest with you about what happened to me and like why I've been acting this way. And like, it's like something to make your heart open up a little bit to hear them and like sympathize, empathize with them, whatever, right? So it keeps going on until you're really done and you realize, oh my God, I've given everything I possibly could, all of myself, given my all. I'm really done. And you either give the ultimatum, here's the last boundary, or you're just done, and it's over either way. But like when you really do that, and people say ultimatums aren't right, that's not fair. Well, guess what? It's just your last boundary. An ultimatum just means you've tried so many times and this is your last time and you really are done and you're giving just a little warning. And if it's really super toxic or narcissistic individuals, and they don't even deserve the warning. But you're that type of person that you're gonna give them the last. And that's the type of person I always was, because I was like, hey, remember I told you that? And I told you, like, I really meant it because we've been doing this for 2 years or this or that. Like, this time, for real, yeah, I did mean it. And this is what I'm doing. And this is what's happening. And and you start following through and they start acting up and losing it, going crazy, or doing other weird things. Or there's lots of different, techniques and saves that I've even had somebody be like, I'm not feeling well, I need to call 911. I think I'm having a heart attack or my heart's about to. I'm like, okay, well, call 911 and they'll come help you.
You
I'm
said,
not coming.
I'm not coming. That's what, yeah. I'm not the doctor. Call the doctor.
See
all right,
so
thing,
but no. Like, call 911 then.
Boundaries, that wasn't a comfortable place for you to venture down, right? That road.
I'm just
okay. That's I was trying. It's a loaded question, but I want to ask it so bad. I just don't know where you'll go.
I've learned all about it. I've done it. I've practiced it. I've done it. I understand it. I know the signs when somebody's respecting it or not or whatever. But I think what's harder for me at this point is just realizing the covert narcissism and the covert toxicity, and the covert, which means it's not overt, it's not in your face, it's being hidden somehow, and people are lying to your face, and you find out stuff behind, and they'll never admit to it, and they just keep it going and going, and you're like, wow, and you're just watching the show, you're watching the acting jobs, you're watching, and you're like, I cannot believe that, like, the truth will never come out this way. These people will never own up to it. We'll never have a just straight up conversation. And why is that? And it's like, I want to find out why, but it's like, I'm at that point where I'm watching a lot of things happen and
really?
I'm learning and I'm connecting it to go, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Why this always happened, or why this person always came back and tried to perpetuate this cycle and this pattern again with me. And this, I thought we had this conversation already. I'm like, I already answered your question. Why do you keep bringing up the same thing over and over again? I'm not really sure why, because at this point, like I used to be patient and understanding and all that kind of stuff and get lost in the back and forth. And now I'm like, what are you getting at?
You were lost in the back and forth then, huh? You, as you said earlier, I call you a pit bull. You wanted to let's take this puppy apart and we can put it back together. And that wasn't always working for you then. So now you're a little bit more discerning and discreet. And you said watching? Is that what you said? You're watching?
Yeah, I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm waiting.
Observing? Yeah.
Observing. It's like scientific observation. The scientific method. Step 1 is observation. Yeah, but it's helpful because I'm connecting it and learning, because I've been so dedicated to healing all the way from the inside out, healing and realizing, oh, this is connected to this trauma or this, and connecting a lot of it, because so many things in my life never made sense. I could never put 2 and 2 together for so many things. So that's what perpetuated the cycle. And I would just keep going because I kept taking people, places, things at face value, because I couldn't see what was being hidden from me. And it's like, I'm watching, seeing some things that were hidden from me, and it's like mind blowing. And I just keep watching and going, what's going to happen next? I want to know. Like, I'm healing, but I also I was like, I want to know what
You are in the you're in the bleachers. You got front row. I want to see what's going to happen next. I've got to.
VIP, baby, VIP,
I've
backstage.
got to. I needed some music for that moment or a sound. VIP, shift your perspectives, everybody. This was going to be a long one. I should have told you that at the beginning, everybody, because we're gonna get through this and share what we could with you. And the three people that I'm thinking of that talked about ADHD, this is exactly what you requested. I hope you enjoy it. We enjoy being here with all of you, but we need to shift perspectives when it comes to ADHD, toxic relationships, and narcissism. Let's look at this paragraph together, everybody. When it comes to arguments, it is important not to communicate in a way that blames another person. Instead, a healthier way to communicate would highlight mutual understanding and learning. That said, recognizing past behaviors is also vital. Therefore, there also needs to be mutual acceptance of responsibility too. Now that part gets me. The mutual acceptance of responsibility. Did you find it in your life that there was this mutual acceptance of responsibility when you were dealing with toxic individuals or situations?
It would seem like it at times, just like I was talking about earlier. It's like you keep taking things at face value. People will agree, or it'll seem like you're getting along. It'll seem like they, learned something or took responsibility for something. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, the same pattern's continuing again, because you're seeing it for what it is, instead of getting lost and caring about this person, and you're seeing the same behavior, the same thing being brought up over and over. And it's like, well, if they were taking mutual responsibility, like I've taken responsibility for my actions, my mistakes, my behaviors, whatever, then they wouldn't keep bringing up my part negatively in it from the past, or throwing it back at me, or asking a question where I'm answering it the same way. It's like, you're asking me why we didn't stay together, and I'm telling the truth. And it's like, it's because you treated me this way. And then they don't like the answer. So they're like, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Okay. Is that mutual responsibility? No, you're like blaming me or trying to throw it back at me because you didn't like the answer that I gave you about something we've talked about countless times. And you're bringing it up again. Like you're going to get a different answer or response, and you're not.
Well, matter of fact, the paragraph highlights this. Not only will those two changes aid in creating healthier communication habits, but they'll also indicate and reflect self-awareness and self-responsibility. So they're dropping these two self words in there, self-awareness and self-responsibility. So a person could be coping with ADHD and end up with a relationship where a person that they're with is not going to be geared to be self-aware and self-responsible while they're trying to do just that. Or maybe you find yourself, as many of you have told us, you may not have ADHD, but you're in a toxic situation, work, home, generational trauma, relationship with family. Self-awareness and self-responsibility can be a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say this.
With the lights going down and it getting dark in Florida.
I know, you see that? I purposely left.
Sorry, you got the blue light. You got the blue light going on. You got the blue light on the mic.
And I have my cute little crystal-looking prism lamp on over here, keeping it
good.
I'm like,
all good.
But it's like, as people age, whether some people that are getting older or in a romantic, whatever, you've been through something over and over. It's like, I've shared so much of things I've learned. I've given. I thought we were having all these in-depth conversations, or you're asking questions to your family, to your friends, to your roommate. You're trying to actually get to know people, and you're asking questions, and you care, and they answer you, and you're back. And then you realize later, you're like, I'm the one growing and learning, and I'm here, and I'm realizing some people just stay the same, and it just seems like they're growing, or until you see it for what it is, and you're like, oh my God, some people are actually like going backwards as they're getting older. They're getting like worse. When we're talking about narcissistic individuals get worse as they get older. It's like they're turning into little kids, or like they're losing self-awareness completely, and it's like everything's a blame game, or everything's like, pointing to something else other than them. Like, that's why a lot of people are religious. I'll just bring that up again. A lot of people get really religious or really involved in some kind of principle, Bible of something to follow, because they don't have self-awareness. They don't have self-growth. They're not on that journey, but they're focused on this other thing because it gives them some kind of material, some kind of content, some kind of thing to say, this is the truth, and this is what I've done, and this is what I followed my life, and I'm such a good person, and I care about people because I did this. The Bible says to serve others and to be like Jesus, and that's why I do X, Y, Z, and blah. And I'm going to tell
So you've seen
you all
hypocrisy.
about it.
You've seen hypocrisy in many different ways. We've talked about it a number of times. And you've seen the hypocrisy in a relationship. You've seen it in other dynamics. I almost said something I'm not going to say.
All
I'm
relationships.
going to get nobody. See, don't get me in trouble. So you've seen it in other relationships. I'll just put it that way. In other dynamics.
Seen it, felt it.
So now we get to this part of the show that I put this up. And what advice do you give to someone that has ADHD or may believe that they may have it?
Or
what advice do you give them?
To any of the signs, symptoms, behaviors, experiences that we're talking about here.
Don't self-diagnose. You're not saying that, but you're saying, right?
Yeah. If you can relate to any of it, it's beneficial for you because you can get something out of it. Doesn't mean you don't have to label it anything. I say don't label yourself. I just accept this label because I'm proud to label myself with the ADHD label. Once I realized it was something that helped set me free, of course, I'm going to wave my freedom flag and say, hey, anybody else can relate? Here's
So a lot of things began to make sense once you got an evaluation. So that may be beneficial for them to also do the same, to get an evaluation.
If you are interested in trying medications and stuff like that, that's what the evaluation would be for. If you're interested in straight up just counseling, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, there's tons of different, you don't need an evaluation for that. You just need to find a good therapist or a holistic doctor. I've done that as well, where you're getting a nutrition plan, you're trying different herbs, you're doing acupuncture. I've done acupuncture. I've done a lot of those holistic treatment things. There's a lot of things you can do. Obviously, eating well, balanced, and like exercise and movement and being connected, like to people who are not toxic, finding connectedness.
Okay, time out. You got to repeat that. You got to repeat that again, because I like the way you just put that in there. Being connected. What was that again?
To people who are not toxic, to people
that helps, huh?
Actually connect to.
That helps a little bit.
Yeah, you could actually connect and like get something. There's a give and take. You feel loved. You feel care. You're going to feel secure. You're going to feel protected, all those things. But you have to do it for yourself first. And that's what has been the long road for me, is going, I had to work on healing and loving and protecting myself and reparenting myself. And that took more humility and vulnerability and, just kind of breaking myself down in a very gentle way to reparent myself, to the point when to admit like, oh, Crystal, you need to hug yourself. Crystal, you need to like have little chats and conversations with yourself, because you didn't hear this and you didn't get this. And as much as somebody else from your family or over here wants to say they did this for you, they didn't, because otherwise you would feel different and you would remember that and you would know that, and you wouldn't need to be doing this right now and working on healing so hard and like so long, right? It's like I've had to do those things or I'm talking to myself like I'm a little girl, or I'm writing a letter to myself and like, I'm going to stand up for you. I'm going to work on healing you because I love you, Crystal. Talking to myself and calling myself by my name.
You have made strides that no one else could understand. And you've been so awesome in sharing with me in private. And today, you always do, but today, I'm going to have to stop the show because she's going to make me cry because she'd do that. She'd do that when we be talking. Listen,
it's okay.
You're an amazing human being, but you got me good today because you shared beyond what we were even initially, but that's kind of the way we do random shows together. You're a beautiful person inside and out. Well, hey, first of all, if you and I are together, no telling what's going to come out of this show when we're talking. Yes. But everybody, please understand this. If you are beyond the people that requested for us to put on a show like this, and we know it doesn't hit for everybody, and we're not into the numbers and all those other things everybody else is. This is not an ego swipe to have a YouTube channel for us. We have a special audience that wants certain things to keep them going every day. And you just did that today, Crystal, by sharing your heart. You really have. You really have done that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and you know that more than you know. And we're going to have to go, everybody. But before we go, wait, I got to do this because I am going to do this. I'm just... Everybody, this is not for you. If you want to take off, go right ahead. We understand that, but here we go. I'm going to throw something on here. Hold on a second, Crystal. Let me do this and let me do that, and because we like these live shows together. And let me do that. Okay, Crystal. Movies.
Oh, movies.
Okay. Films. Now, I had my daughters have me binge watching Guardians of the Galaxy and movies like I'm trying to think of Captain America, all this stuff like that. So and so we've been watching that, trying to and have my oldest daughter explaining it to me and everything, and the things from a person who had comic books.
Right.
Tell me, because our tastes are going to be different. We know that, but there's so much because I'm over 60, and sometimes I think you're over 62 because you have such an old taste, But tell me, what is it that you watch?
So actually, the show, it's not a movie, but the show that I've been watching lately is Vikings.
I have no idea, but go ahead.
I forgot if it's on HBO Max or this other thing. I think it's on HBO Max. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I get confused with all these streaming services they have now. But it's Vikings, and I will tell you what, it is what it sounds like. It's about the whole Vikings thing, and it's, it's drama, it's dramatic, but, there's some funny moments in there, and they just do a really great job of, the acting is like A+. They have some great moments, especially, me. It's hard for me to get into a show or movie nowadays. So I just love it, and we've been watching it. I let my son watch it. Mm-hmm. It's not like super bad and inappropriate, but it's PG-13 kind of thing. But
so if there was a movie that you can remember, let's go with two movies that you remember
watching recently
that you want to recommend it right now. What two movies would that be?
So I almost forgot. Just the other night, I finally watched this movie I've been wanting to watch. It's been on my list. It's called The Place Beyond the Pines with Ryan Gosling, Eva Mendes, Bradley Cooper, couple other well-known names, but those are like, the actors well known from it. But I've been wanting to watch that for a long time, and I finally watched it, and I was surprised at how good it was.
Romantic drama kind of a thing, or comedy drama? What?
It's a drama, and it's like, it's very different from most movies, and it's hard for me to get into movies lately because I have so many things on my mind, and sometimes things will just hit me, and I'm like, I can't keep watching, and I'll just stop it. I'm just so weird lately. I'll just stop movies at the beginning.
You're not weird.
Anyway,
You're not weird. You're weird for talking to me, but you're not weird. So what else? So what's the second movie before we close out the show?
that's really good. Oh, I'm trying.
Old, new. It don't have to be new. It could be old. Anything.
Okay, I really like funny movies, like comedies. Like I really do. And there's times when you speaking of ADHD, I'll be like all comedies all month or all week long. It's just all comedy, and then the next it was like all Vikings all week long, just Vikings.
I'm waiting for you to say something, but I'm just wanting to say. I'm
it.
laughing because I'm thinking you're going to say something, but my mind is not sending the message over to you. But go ahead.
Oh, you want me to bring up Blazing Saddles?
No. I was not even going down that road. I was thinking of something different. No, tell me the movie you're going to say, and then I'll tell you what I was thinking. But no, go ahead. You can say.
Like, I'm on a Blazing Saddle. I'm riding right for your life here, just trailblaze.
So what's no other movie? I thought for sure you were going to say Princess Bride. I really did because we were just talking about it before the show. So anyhow. That's what I thought you were going to say.
That's a movie I put on so many times in the background because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah,
like, everyone can just watch this and we'll walk.
Are you reciting the lines? Are you reciting the lines in the movie?
That one, there's some lines, but I will tell you, my favorite movie has always been Forrest Gump, and I know way too much of that movie, like too many lines.
The lines, you know the lines in the movie?
Like a lot of it, because I've seen it quite a few times, and I remember the first time I watched it, I was 9, and it was 1994, and it came out in the theater, and I saw it in the theater, and it just blew me away. I just loved it. I
have never seen the movie from beginning to end.
What?
Ever. Never have. Not that I'm avoiding the movie, I've just never seen it. And I like watching a lot of movies. But then too, I watch a lot of movies that are either in black and white or they're from Scandinavia or, they're on some form. I watch movies with subtitles.
I watch sometimes.
Yeah. Unless I'm watching the Hallmark. I watch the Hallmark Channel movies backwards. They have happy endings.
Oh my God.
I just made that up. Anyhow, all right, everybody. This is Crystal. I'm Paxton. Crystal and Paxton, we're done. This is our podcast. Why do we call it that? Because we have I'll put hopefully I'm still there. Oh, you just lost me there. Got me back. Did everybody get me back? You just lost me for a second there somewhere. Hopefully you got me back. Are we all back here? Anyhow, you can come on the show with us. We can put a show together for you as long as it's about mental health, narcissistic abuse, and all the other stuff. Life, yeah. It's not a political channel. It's not a religious channel. It's not a hate other people channel.
Propaganda.
This is propaganda. Oh, hey. Okay, so before we go, I got to do this one. I meant to ask you this the last time. Do you have a joke for us?
A joke?
You or your son?
How about joke. This one? Here's a
the FCC don't get us kicked off, but go ahead. What?
Here's a family-friendly pickup line.
Oh my goodness.
How much does the polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice. Hi, I'm Crystal. Nice to meet you.
Man, hold on a second.
Okay. Appropriate. Anybody can use it. If you're at the bar, if you're at school, if you're at church, you can use it anywhere.
Hey, do us a favor, everybody. No matter how hard of a week you've had, treat yourself to, I don't know, a little dancing on the way out here. I don't know. I'm going to pick something random. Let me do this. What is this? I don't even know what it is. Let's just go here. No,
ice cream. When you said treat.
Ooh, ice cream. That's a good idea. Okay. Free TV, guys. We're done. I have no telling what I'm going to pick here. We're just doing stuff. I'm just picking numbers here. There we go. That sounds good on the way out. Okay. All right. Crystal.
You know what?
We do our wave. I don't know. But go ahead. You're going to say.
You know what I haven't had in a long time is that frozen yogurt.
Frozen yogurt? You don't do ice cream, do you? I don't think.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I have a thing about frozen yogurt with the toppings in it. I don't know. It's softer in your mouth than like ice cream's a little.
You like getting the yogurt and putting all the toppings on and making this mound of creation?
I have done that. When I was younger, I wouldn't allow myself to do that because of all the trauma, and now I do whatever I want, and I put whatever candy and stuff I want.
I got it. Here we go.
You can only have
All right, everybody, treat yourself to some yogurt and a whole bunch of other things. Let's, I don't know, we waved,
Go
we done other
wild.
stuff.
It's Friday
Everybody, enjoy yourself. Have a good time, and we're out of here, people. That's it. Crystal, you did great.
Peace.
Thanks. You got me in the corners. I started tearing up. A lot of
You didn't
information.
want to go there.
No, I'm not. Hey, I'm about to
You're
go
on the
downstairs.
tech side.
We're about to go downstairs and hang out with my daughters. The last thing I want to do is start crying. We could, Crystal. Oh, by the way, my youngest daughter, Bree, she said to make sure to tell you hi. She likes you.
I
Say
said
hi.
hola.
I should have told you at the show prep we were doing, but all right, everybody, free TV is done. All right, have fun. See you later. Bye, guys. See you later. Bye. Peace out, buddy. Peace out, everybody. See you later. Bye. Okay, we thank you people for hanging out with us and being here and enjoying yourself. I need to run over a few things before, I end this stream, and I'm going to hopefully get a chance to talk with Crystal before she takes off. But everybody, do me a huge favor. I need you to, if you could, please subscribe to Layla Ali. Did I just say Layla? Lila Ali. I just said it wrong, Crystal. Gee, I just totally got her name wrong. I shouldn't.
Lila.
She is the split coach. Please go over to her YouTube channel. You're going to see some of her content on our channel starting next week. She's got a couple of pre-recorded podcasts that you'll be hearing soon. Please show her some support. Man, I'm totally losing it toward the end here. And, of course, friend to the show and amazing person as well, Dr. Robin Bryman. Please make sure you subscribe to her channel as well. We must make sure that we answer everyone that we can. The answer was yes. I said at the beginning, many of you may be joining now or passing through. We do have merch. You don't have to keep asking me anymore. So we do have it. I just haven't been showcasing it. We do have merch that you can get a hold of and support the show by donating that way. Feel free to do so. We have no problem with that. Of course, we want to reach as many as possible. If you need help with your podcast or you need help in starting a podcast show, come on, be a member at $3.99 and we will help you. Come on and join Crystal and I and hang out with us if you like. That's about it. Enough time for me to go hang out with Crystal for a little bit. And then I'm going to go hang out with my daughters. Hey, what you doing over there, Crystal?
Hey.
We're not.
Sometimes when I'm thinking, I look like I'm just zoning real bad,
Hey,
which I am.
like we said goodbye, but we're still here. You think they
No.
figured out that we're still here?
I was like, let me hang around. What are you doing?
You know, we be chilling like a villain. I told you, we're gonna come out to Florida. We're gonna come out to Florida and we're gonna do a show live together. If I don't get you out here to a studio in California.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be like so great. But where would we do it?
Where?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
At the beach or in Central Florida here.
I know one thing.
In Miami?
You and I are going to have a great time when we actually do a live show together.
Right? That would be super crazy.
Yeah, we're going to be crazy. All right, everybody. Peace out.